5 of us, you know. There's B. Arthur, and there's Betty White, there's Estelle Getty, there's me, and there's our secret weapon, the 5th Golden Girl, Terry Hughes. He makes us happy to come to work every day.
She was very gracious and a tribute to me, but she called me the 5th Golden Girl, something I've been living down ever since. I was part of that group. I knew the rhythms of it. I knew where the best comedy would be. I knew how long to stay on B. Arthur's pause, because I just felt it as if I were on stage with them.
He knew just how to handle all of us, and he knew just how to work between us and the producers.
In just 2 years, the Golden Girls were sitcom royalty. And the girls in the Little Miami bungalow were about to make some friends in very high places.
I'm dying, Dorothy. Saturday, 9 o'clock. Don't make any plans.
Oh, Ma, you're being ridiculous.
In September 1988, the Golden Girls reached a new level of success. B. Arthur and Estelle Getty took home Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead and Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series.
Picture it, California, 1988. This is such a big thrill, and I know that I can't take too much time, but I want to thank the immediate world.
With those wins, Betty, Rue, B, and Estelle entered an elite club in the world of television.
The Golden Girls has a distinction. It shares this distinction with All in the Family. These are the only 2 shows historically where each of the principal actors in the series won Emmy Awards.
The Golden Girls enjoyed high ratings and professional accolades, but the ladies never took their work for granted.
I would just say it was professionalism. We read 10 o'clock on a Monday. They were all there at 9:30, and they were all having their bagel, and they would be talking to all of us, you know, what did you do over the weekend? At 10 o'clock, and I mean 10 o'clock sharp, scripts opened up, and we read them.
If the line didn't seem to be right coming out of my mouth or out of Betty's or out of B would always say, there's something wrong here. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong. And Betty and I would both say something like, you know, I think this line would be better for Estelle.
I remember we would say, look, I don't think I would say this to you, and Rue would say, no, I think Betty should do it, or whatever. And we would talk to the writers and discuss why we felt it wasn't working.
But I think those ladies established right from the start, this is going to be a professional show, it's going to be run that way, and we respected that.
There were times when people got tired. There were times when we had scripts that we were having a real problem with. But they had all been there before. They all had faith in the process and in their staff, and we would get it together by shoot night.
We just loved that laughter on a Friday night when we did the show. We used to do the show twice. We'd do it about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was on tape in those days, and then we would do it again about 8 o'clock in the evening. And just the laughter was so extraordinary. And often would be quite major rewrites between the 5 o'clock taping and the 8 o'clock taping. So the ladies had to be very quick on their feet to learn new material.
It so happens that I have a story for you. The sex story to end all sex stories.
Some of those stories would go on for 2 pages, and that's long, and she had to remember.
No, wait. I'm thinking of the best meal I ever had.
What makes the show really good were the moments where it was off story, and that took place in the kitchen. And you know, they were, at the time they were called the cheesecake scenes. And a lot of times it would, that scene would start with what the show was about, but immediately it would veer off into something else.
It's a rhythm thing. If you throw in a couple of extra syllables, the joke doesn't work.
It's just 2 little words, but they are the hottest 2 little words in all the whole world for me to say.
Not tonight. The timing between us all was just so delicious, and I don't know, you can't teach it. Comedy is such like a little sea anemone that'll fold up on you if you're not careful.
You've either got it or you ain't got it. That's just the way it is.
I think there are a great many wonderful actors, really wonderful actors, who once they're told that they're playing comedy, they turn into creatures from certainly another world. I mean, the voice changes, the delivery of lines will change. It seems to me a lack of honesty.
Well, I'm not playing Dorothy, although playing a sap on stilts would be a cakewalk.
No offense, pussycat.
I thought that that's the way a TV show ran. That, you know, you came, you did your best, everybody showed up on time, there were no fights. And, you know, later in my career I found out that that was not the case. So, you know, we were really spoiled having worked on that show.
The women, week after week, managed to find the reality. When you start to get desperate and you get unreal and you go for silliness, that actors have a real tough time keeping it fresh.
The Golden Girls did not run out of fresh material. The show is known for tackling topical and sometimes controversial subjects.
I did love borrowing his clothes.
Did you like wearing boys' clothes growing up?
No, but fortunately, neither did my brother Phil.
Season 4 was no different. Rose kicked an addiction to prescription drugs, while Blanche learned to accept her brother's homosexuality.
The man's as gay as a picnic basket.
I thought that was an important one, and I thought it was handled well. There were, I think, 2 appearances that he made. Marty Markham. He, first I find out that he's homosexual in the first one. And in the second one, he brings his significant other to visit us and announces that they're going to be married in some kind of a ceremony that they've got together. And Blanche goes from being outraged and heartbroken and horrified to realizing that she loves her brother, whatever his orientation.
The audience allowed them into their home. We were allowed to say anything, touch any subject, do anything.
You cradle-snatching, empty-headed, two-faced dummy.
And then at other times she can be a real bitch.
We never liked to preach, but we never minded making a point. So when you're doing comedy, you want to do it in such a way that people are laughing, and you pull back a little bit when you want to make your point just so they listen, but you don't want to hit them over the head with it.
Clayton is a hobo?
NBC gave the producers the freedom to push the envelope.
Oh, we better put out the welcome mat.
We don't have a welcome mat.
What about the one Dorothy says is at the foot of your bed?
When I was doing Maude, where every third day of rehearsal, we would have to read the entire script to the network censor. I remember once I was supposed to say son of a bitch, and they wouldn't let me say it. I ended up saying son of a witch. But by the time Golden Girls came around, we no longer had people breathing down our necks.
That kind of creative freedom paid off in surprising ways. The show is not only popular in the U.S., it was also a favorite of England's own Golden Girl, the Queen Mother. In November of 1988, the ladies were invited to perform for a royal audience.
It became a cult show over there. And a friend of mine from the BBC, who I used to work with, said, look, we're doing this Royal Variety performance in front of the Queen Mother, which is a big variety show they do at the London Palladium, and full of British acts. And would the 4 ladies be interested in coming over and appearing on it? Because we think they would be very popular here. And I talked to them, and they were, really?
And when we got to England, it was really pretty strange because we got off the plane.
It was like the Beatles had arrived, you know? These 4 elderly ladies, you know, I mean, they were screaming for us, screaming for us. It was wonderful.
I had no idea that these women in their 60s would be mobbed by kids and autograph seekers, and it really was a huge amount of fun.
The Ladies of Miami took the stage in the London Palladium on November 21st, 1988.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Girls.
I'll get the cheesecake. I'll get the ice cream. I'll grab the pepperoni. I'm shocked.
And I remember they came out, and the very first joke was something, of course, about, you know, an orgy or something like that. And there was complete silence for a second. And you could almost feel and hear the eyes go up to the box where the Queen Mum was. And she kind of put her handkerchief to her mouth and giggled a little. And then there was a roar. And then it was like you were allowed to laugh at this. And they killed that night.
Go by Buckingham Palace and see the changing of the guard.
I've already seen the guards change, which reminds me one of them left his boots in my hotel room.
It was a big thrill for me that we got invited to come to London in 1988. We played for Princess Margaret and the Queen Mother and other members of the royal family. It was a huge thrill. We got a week in London.
But the thrill of working on the Golden Girls was fading fast for the writers.
We were there writing or overseeing 102 episodes.